differently, but that doesn't mean that work stopped in Newfoundland and Labrador.
No, some great things happening in Newfoundland and Labrador, and I'm glad you raised this, Lynn. I think we need to celebrate more some of the things that are happening. We tend to always look towards, things aren't great right now, but in Newfoundland and Labrador, we have some incredibly talented people doing some great work. And I'll use a couple of examples. Kraken, for example, has just received 2 international contracts. You see Genoa's Design just had another international contract on the shipbuilding side of things. We were seeing a real growth in our mining sector. Our mining sector is, it's really, really doing well.
You can't get drillers.
I can't get drillers. I mean, these are really good success stories. Yes, we're tourism is suffering because we can't get people back and forth. But as Gudie said earlier, I think that once the pandemic is over, or we're in a new, we've adjusted or adapted to how we manage the pandemic. I think you'll see lots of people traveling, and they're going to want to come to Newfoundland and Labrador. So making sure that we take advantage of that, I think, is going to be important. And we're seeing some incredible opportunities in the province, and we have a lot of hardworking people. Yes, oil and gas is challenged and struggling globally, not just in Newfoundland and Labrador.
But Equinor had a positive announcement last week.
Equinor has made some new discoveries, and we are seeing great opportunity in seismic for Newfoundland and Labrador going forward. And of course, we have the lower carbon per barrel oil here in Newfoundland and Labrador. So that's well positioned. So I think overall, we're really well positioned in this province, not just because of our incredible natural resources, not just because we have very, very talented people and workforce here, but because we're ready and willing and able to move these, exciting opportunities forward.
And, in speaking about the talent of our workforce. I was at the Board of Trade event last week. And one of the things that the Premier talked about is the importance of maintaining that workforce. I mean, we do. It's an exceptionally skilled workforce. And while things have changed in oil and gas and in other sectors, I mean, the economy and the opportunities will return. And our economy will grow again.
One thing is for sure, there is a lot of opportunity out there.
And so, Coady, what are you hearing, about whether it's the new training opportunities, the new business opportunities? I mean, there are success stories coming out of this very difficult period.
There are, and you've seen people that have turned what they were doing on a dime to do, and the big one, of course, was hand sanitizer. You saw so many companies turn, and all of a sudden they're making high quality hand sanitizer with their existing equipment. So again, it was someone forward thinking outside the box. We're in a situation that's totally different. How can I adapt? What can I do to be a part of helping our province and our country go forward? So that's been phenomenal. But the other week I did a tour of the new heavy equipment center by College of North Atlantic in Stephenville. And that was a joint federal building under the SIF funding of $18 million. And it's phenomenal because it was a need that was expressed by especially the mining industry that we need to train for these, the modern technology of the heavy equipment that's used. But now they're doing everything online. So it was amazing to walk by a classroom and see the instructor at the top of the room, doing his thing with his everything, and then nobody in the room, but then another person in another room answering all the questions and forward the questions on. So it is working, and we're seeing people adapt. Granville is doing the same thing here on the West Coast. But there are a couple of stories I do want to tell you about that to me is individuals really forward thinking. One on the Northern Peninsula by your president, Sheila Fitzgerald's in her neck of the woods, a young fella, Ben Wiper, and his business is called 3F Waste Recovery. And he's manufacturing value-added natural products and ingredients from the waste byproducts from fishing and farming and forestry industries of Newfoundland. He's doing incredible work. He was just given, recognized by the Ocean Supercluster and given a small grant. He was also did a Zoom call last week. Minister Mary Ng of our small business and export, she reached out and she was blown away with what he was doing. So right now he's focusing on the production of lanolin and tallow from sheep byproducts in the farming stream. And also from biofuels from the forestry byproducts, and collagen from cod products. And you may not know that my colleague and friend here is as big a dog lover as I am.
Oh,
So
I know.
you need to get cod skin treats. He's just going into super manufacturing with my girls. It's the old ad. They see the bag and they go nuts. So Ben is doing incredible work there, and he can't keep up with the demand for his product. Another one that shows how we're adapting to change is Agathuna Drafting and Consulting with their drone technology, and they're based out of Port. And Jamie and Denise Gudie have done some incredible work with drone capabilities. And we all think of drones of pictures, but they're doing so much more with their thermal imaging. And how they're helping municipalities is they can detect without digging down, and they can see much more than the human eye, all the leaks in your water systems, in the aging infrastructure that we're having in municipalities. They can do heat loss for your buildings. So they're doing phenomenal work. The thermal imaging can help you with animal counts in the wilderness. So it's amazing what they're doing with this. And at the end of their all the presentations they give, I love it because this sums up so much. They say the Stone Age didn't end because it ran out of stone. The Stone Age ended because of innovation. And we need to keep that focus because of innovation, we are going to be able to do so much more. And as Siobhan alluded to, we have so many resources in Newfoundland and Labrador. We have so many resourceful people. We have so many resourceful communities that think outside the box. So innovation and change, embrace it, because that is the new forward.
Whether you're on the island or you're in Labrador, I mean, we've got, geographic challenges. We face the cod moratorium. I mean, we've been in a hard spot before. It's not our first time. And yet there are hundreds of municipalities in this province. So, what do you say to the municipal leaders watching here today, to kind of, and I'll use your word, to give them that sense of hope?
Well, first of all, I think you hit the nail on the head. We're very resilient as a people.
Resilient. That's
and
the
we're resilient
word.
as communities,
Mm-hmm.
and we're resilient as a province, and we're resilient as a country. And when you look at how Newfoundland and Labrador has managed its way forward for generations upon generations,
Mm-hmm.
when I gave this budget speech a few weeks ago, I spoke about the ode to Newfoundland and Labrador. My parents, I'm a first generation Canadian. I often say that because my parents were both born in Newfoundland.
Yes.
And they were Newfoundland citizens. And they, from the Dominion of Newfoundland, just like there was a Dominion of Canada, there was a Dominion in Newfoundland. And that kind of sense of pride of place, that sense of pride in our communities, that sense of strength in our communities and in our province, I think will help us through this pandemic. Mm-hmm. We have municipal leaders out there encouraging growth and development. I look at communities like Bonavista. I just mentioned Bonavista. I don't know if you've been there recently. I was there in the last few months to visit Bonavista. And some of the innovative businesses coming out of that area, some of the supports that are happening, the tourism that is happening in that area, it's just, we just need to nurture it. Mm-hmm. And I believe that municipal leaders in this province are nurturing it. I think the federal and provincial governments are working together with municipal leaders to nurture it. Mm-hmm. But it's that kind of strength and opportunity that'll bode well for us moving forward.
Is that what you're seeing, Gudie?
Oh, definitely. And, as Siobhan alluded to, what we're seeing coming out of this is going to make us stronger at the other end. We haven't talked much or much on agriculture, but look what the province is now doing. Mm-hmm. Just down the road from me here is an incredible potato farm happening. And I never realized the amount of potatoes that Newfoundlanders consume. And he has upped his production from 1 million pounds of potatoes a year this year. It's going to be 5 million. And, all this food security, we're an island, we need that. So we're, and we all know what happened this summer. I even planted a garden. So, we're getting back into sustaining ourselves and our communities. You're seeing so many driving around my riding. It was great to see all the municipal gardens go in. which is helping their communities. You're seeing communities, get a food bank and community freezers. So communities are really working together to make a difference for their community and the whole area. So we just, the whole thing of collaboration and working together. And we are a resilient people. We have been, we live on an island in the North Atlantic, for God's sake. That's what we take for granted. A lot of people in Canada go, oh my golly, how could you ever do that? But we've done that for generations, and we're going to continue to do it. And we're going to end up being leaders in many, many fields.
What I would say to a municipal leader is please keep doing what you're doing in your communities. Please keep showing that kind of support to one another. I would hope that we'll have more people step forward, looking at how can I say this in the right way? Looking at the leadership that we have now and saying, I can do that. I can be there as well. Or maybe they've discovered their own talents coming through this pandemic and will offer themselves for municipal service. I really do hope that. And I hope some will look at the provincial level or the federal level and say, I could step up and do that kind of role as well in my community. So an encouragement of people to step forward. There's an awful lot of talent in our communities. I've seen more women step forward in municipal politics. I hope they continue to step forward and then, look to the federal or provincial levels to offer their services as well. But what I can say is how an important role municipal leaderships have in ensuring that people are not just serviced during a pandemic, not just given the opportunities and made to feel secure, but how important it is for the future growth and development of our province, and how important it is for the future growth and development of our country. And to thank people who step up. I mean, the municipal leaders, they're very, very hardworking. They give tremendously.
Predominantly
of their time.
Volunteers.
Most of them are volunteers. And everything they do is in the best interest of their community. And they should feel proud of that. I know it's hard work. I know it's hard work, and I know sometimes you don't feel as if it matters. It matters tremendously, and sometimes you don't feel as if people care, but they do care. They care tremendously about good leadership, about good support, about good hope. And I think that municipal leaders are stepping forward with that. So this year, as you come now towards election year, I guess in this fall of 2021, imagine we're saying 2021, in the fall of 2021, look at all that you've achieved, look at all you've contributed, and hopefully you'll continue to offer that to the province and to your community, to your families and your communities. And thank you.
And your advice, Gudie? And certainly your thanks. I know the work is really, truly incredible. What is done in municipal government throughout our province. And as we just said, predominantly volunteers.
Well, I get great delight, Lynn, of saying to my colleagues in Ottawa, and Siobhan will smile at this. When I went to Ottawa first, I would say, my golly, you can get 6 islands of Prince Edward Island in my riding. And people would look at the place, and then I'm like, oh, they have no idea how big PEI is. And I'd say, my riding is bigger than Switzerland. And I have 217 gorgeous communities. And people would say, oh my golly. So look, I understand how important municipal leaders are and the contribution that they make. So Siobhan is so right. Please step up. It is a very gratifying role. There are days you don't get any thanks for, but none of us get into any level of politics for the thanks. You get into it to know that you're going to work hard, and you see the opportunity. Newfoundland and Labrador has been good to me. It's been good to Siobhan. It's been good to many, many people. That's why we do this. You do this to give back in some way. So I always say, say thank you to your community leaders, your municipal leaders especially, because you're right, Lynn, most of it is a volunteer position.
Let's talk about the COVID supports. Of course, both the provincial, federal governments, in cooperation with the COA, have done a lot of work. Of course, the COA is still doing its regular work, but there's been a lot of work done in COVID supports. So let's take a few minutes and talk about that.
Certainly. Well, the provincial government has put aside $200 million for COVID supports and funding. So things like the Essential Workers Program, where we were able to, with the federal government, give a top up to essential workers. The things like the small business support program that we put in place in budget in this past budget 2020-2021, where we're offering small businesses the opportunity to, through a small portal on the industry, energy and technology website, they can go in and fill out a very quick form, and they're able to get some funding, a stipend, a small amount of money to help with innovation or with COVID relief. We've been able to do the same with the tourism industry. There's a program that we've put in place through the tourism portal to help tourism operators with a small stipend, again, for COVID supports. We've opened up that program to the arts community and to Music NL so that they have some supports, because we know there are people that are really impacted.
Well, and the arts community is such a core part of
Absolutely.
Our economy.
Yeah,
I mean, our tourism industry relies on that talent.
So we were able to increase the grant that we give to Arts NL, and we were also able to open up that program, that COVID support program, and allow them to fill in just a small form online and get some supports. So we also have opened it up again. We have a program for community groups. So, your local Lions Club or your local Legion, who's really a big part of the community, but they've been impacted so significantly by COVID. So again, they can go on the industry, energy and technology website through govnl.ca, and they can fill out a form and receive a small stipend. But again, working with the federal government, working with municipalities, working with the communities to say, what are your needs? How can we help? And of course, we also have put $100 million in the budget towards healthcare. So for testing, for, protective gear, for hopefully a vaccine in the very near future. So a lot of investments, that's what I call them, not just money spent, but investments in our communities, investments in diversity. You've seen throughout the budget, of course, a real emphasis on the economy, a real emphasis on communities, and maintaining, of course, the funding that is required for municipalities and municipal grants and infrastructure development. So all that's part of our plan as we move forward through the pandemic.
And for you, Ms. Hutchings, what about what's standing out to you from the federal perspective, but in particular, how the federal government is working with the provincial government to ensure that those supports are in place?
Lynn, as Siobhan alluded to, we came out with so many programs at the beginning and throughout the summer and into the fall that we partnered with the province with. As I alluded to at the beginning of the interview, the CERB, the CEBA, the wage subsidy and all those. But there are some other ones that we did. And, when you look at COVID itself, when you look at what was highlighted in COVID, it was underrepresented groups that were really hit hard. Youth, women, Indigenous peoples, newcomers. And we came out with the $25,000 right away for every shelter and every center to help women in need. So that was there. The other one that has always been an issue in rural Canada and in Canada from coast to coast to coast. But of course, COVID really highlighted the issue of connectivity. And there's been a connectivity plan in Canada for the last 10 or 15 years. I'm delighted in the last 5 years, we've connected about 1 million new households with our Connect to Innovate projects, with our CRTC projects, and now with the Universal Broadband Fund that's about to be announced. That is going to highlight, again, how important connectivity is for health, for safety, for kids doing their homework, and most important, for e-commerce and economic recovery. So I'm excited to be chatting about that in the coming weeks of the new Universal Broadband Fund and how we'll partner with the province and all provinces and territories to get more and more Canadians connected. Years ago, John A. Macdonald connected the country with a railway. Now it's not a railway anymore. It's being connected with, low orbit satellites, broadband, even your cell phones. So this new program will help us meet our target of having every Canadian connected by no later than 2030 and 96-97% connected in the next couple of years. The other thing, of course, is ACOA. We listed off the COVID funding, but ACOA is continuing to doing some great works, as well as other government agencies, but everybody in Newfoundland and Labrador is familiar with ACOA. So through their regular COA programming this year, they have put over $52 million into the economy this year. And 32 million of that was into commercial projects. So ACOA is still continuing to do their incredible work on the ground. They've adapted and amended some of their relationships and contracts with existing companies just to help them through these bumpy waters. But don't forget, there are still ongoing programs. And the best thing that our federal government and Siobhan's provincial government has delivered for Newfoundland and Labrador was last April when we announced the Atlantic Accord. Everybody forgets that's $2 billion over 10 years. So that's ongoing funding coming to the province. So we've got to remember that the province is still going. And yes, COVID has attracted another and not attracted, but because of COVID, we've had these additional funds come in to help people in need. But there is also the ongoing great work that's being done by the province and the federal government and the municipalities working together to make sure that we take advantage of every opportunity for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians to succeed and be strong.
Now, the opportunities for communities to, this has really opened up that we can do some healthcare by telehealth types of medicine. And that's good news for rural communities and the people who live there.
Without a doubt, Lynn, and I'm glad you raised that. I mean, we've put in place now, for example, through the 811 portal, the 811 on your telephone, and you're able to connect with, healthcare with healthcare, and you've seen a lot of people moving towards that, and we now have, nurses available for you pretty much around the clock, all the time, available to you to help with your healthcare needs, and that's expanding. Telehealth is something that's very, very important. It's part of that reimagining how services are happening. We've seen tremendous, the MyGovNL portal that is available. We've seen tremendous growth. Like you can't, absolutely unbelievable growth during the COVID period where people were saying, well, I need to connect with MCP. I can do it through my portal. I need to connect with, I need to register my car. I can do it through the portal. So you're seeing people, and I'm glad Gudie raised it, and I'm glad to see the supports coming to continue that broadband development, because that's a new way of doing things, a new way of developing things. We can't forget, of course, that not everybody has broadband. Not everyone knows how to use technology. So, but it is helping to offer services differently for those that can utilize it.
And it's good for the economy too, because the day when an employee has to take 2 hours out of their workday to go to the doctor's office to get a prescription refilled, now they can schedule potentially a phone call with their doctor. Well, it's just a different way of doing things, and it's challenged us to really consider, sometimes we found the gaps, but we're finding better ways to do things.
And I think you've just hit the nail on the head. As we move forward, reimagining, and there was a big theme going throughout our budget, reimagining government. How do we offer better services? How do we offer different services?
So we just have a couple of minutes left. So Gudie,
I'm going to jump in on the connectivity piece, because I don't know. I look at Newfoundland and Labrador, but I really look at my riding. And what's interesting is the people from outside of Canada and outside Atlantic Canada that are buying up homes and cottages sight unseen because they want to move to a safer rural area. And again, connectivity will be a big piece of that. So it's amazing. I know I was talking to the mayor of Rose Blanche the other day, and they now have 51 homes that are owned by people from outside the area.
So perhaps kind of your final thoughts for our municipal leaders.
Well, I will say this to the municipal leaders. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you for your engagement in your community and making sure that we're all working together. We're going to get through this, and we're going to get through it together, and we're going to be stronger emerging from this. There's a lot of opportunity in Newfoundland and Labrador. It takes your leadership. It takes the provincial government, the federal government, all of us as Newfoundlanders and Labradorians coming together to support and to support each other as we go through COVID, but to support each other in our economy as well. So I look forward to continuing to work with all of you. I thank you for your service. I thank you for tuning in today. I think this is great that MNL did the conference this way. I'm looking forward to participating and listening to a lot of the discourse during the next number of days. Of course, I always prefer to see people, but I'm glad that we have this opportunity to be together. I know that I've had some great experiences at home in the last number of months over COVID with, working from home in the early part of this. I know Gudie loves dogs as well as I do, and having that opportunity to always be together with my family. And I hope you're safe and well. And thanks for tuning in.
And your final thoughts, Gudie?
Siobhan, again, hit the nail on the head. Thank you to all the municipal leaders for what you do, but more importantly, for what you've done in these last 8 months. Nobody, as we've all said, there was no playbook on this, but you've worked together, you've delivered for your communities, and I know you're going to continue to do that. You're going to find those economic opportunities, you're going to find the social opportunities for your towns, and we will get through this together. There is hope on the other side. And be sure you put your name forward again when the municipal elections come up next year. As Siobhan said, yeah, we've all learned to work from home. I would normally be doing this either in person or from Ottawa, but I'm able to do it from here. My dogs love it that I'm home. Only I'm not calling it COVID-19. I'm calling it about COVID-22 now, because I think I've got 22 pounds on. I've all been doing a little more eating. But you know what? That just puts light on a very serious thing. But the most important thing is that we support each other. Get out and get away from your screen time. Have a walk. Clear your head. We need to, look after everyone's mental health and all this as well. But the most important thing is to stay well and safe. And the province has done a great job of controlling the virus. And we all need to continue to do our part. Now is not the time to let our guard down. Now is the time to be vigilant in all that we've done, because it's worked. We need to keep doing that to make sure we stay safe, therefore our communities and our province stay safe. So thanks for this opportunity. Always wonderful to spend time with you, Siobhan, and look forward to doing this again, hopefully in person. So thanks so much.